Welcome to the Superwoman Life. My guest today is an award-winning author, blogger and head of publicity at Beddow. Kim Nash is such a lovely person and she's so knowledgeable. I just know that you're going to enjoy this interview. Thank you so much, Kim, for agreeing to be interviewed.
Thank you so much for having me, and there's no pressure with an introduction like that.
I like to build you up.
Thank you.
It's all honest. For people who don't know you, Kim, tell us a bit more about yourself, obviously, and I've given you your titles, but tell us a bit about you and who you are.
Well, probably the most important job that I do is mum. So I'm mum to 13-year-old Ollie, who loves football and plays for a local team, so gets sort of ferried around and go to matches, and I'm that cheering mum. I'm the mum that's like, don't do that to my son. I'm that mum. You know I'm going to be that mum. You know that case. So that's my most important job. Then my full-time job is working, as you said, at publicity, head of publicity at a book publisher called Beddow. I started working for them in 2014. We've grown from a company of 2 people to a company now of 40 people, which is absolutely huge. We've sold over 40 million books in the last 6 or 7 years. So it's going from strength to strength and just keeps on going, which is fantastic. I've been book blogging for about 10, maybe 11 years now, which is how I started in the publishing world. I run a book club. I organise local author and book events, sort of connecting authors and readers together. And then last year, in April, my first book was published. In September, my second book was published. And in June this year, my third book was published, which I actually self-published that one.
That's incredible.
That's me.
You're like a book machine.
A book geek, I have been called many a time.
We've known each other for a while now, haven't we? And when we first met, you weren't working in books and publishing at all. You've had quite a varied life, haven't you, really?
Yeah, I've always worked in sort of sales and marketing for various companies, but books have always been a passion of mine. I've always been a really, really avid reader of fiction more than anything. Love my women's fiction, so my chick lits and my rom-coms. Love a bit of crime thriller as well to kind of mix things up a bit. And I was working for a PR company, and once I started blogging, I kind of immersed myself in the publishing world, met loads of different authors. And then I very cheekily one day asked somebody who had messaged me and asked me to review a book for them. And I just very cheekily at the end of the email said, if you know of anybody in the publishing world that's looking for somebody to do some work for them, I would absolutely love to get involved. I was really lucky because it was a guy called Oliver Rhodes who'd set up Beddow, and he was looking to expand the company because there was only him, but he couldn't afford to take somebody on, so he took me on a freelance basis, and that just grew and grew and grew till I started working full time for him.
I love it because I know that you're into all things spiritual as well, and I love it when you kind of put it out there that this is what you want to do now, and it all just kind of clicks into place, doesn't it? It's just like every time it happens, I'm surprised, and I don't know why, because I know it works.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we just have to remind ourselves that it works, and just think about the good things rather than the bad, and just remember all those positive things. In fact, I watched a film yesterday called The Secret, Dare to Dream. I don't know if you've seen it.
I watched it over the weekend as well, funnily enough, while the football was on.
Oh, I absolutely loved it, and it just reminded me again that you need to see the good in everything that you're doing and not the bad.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? When we focus on the positives, we get more positive things in our life. It's that simple.
Definitely. And I have probably about 3 or 4 gratitude journals sat in front of me here that I need to get out and do religiously again every night. And I did talk to my friend this morning when we were walking the dogs, and I said, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to start doing tonight.
Yeah. I've been doing a gratitude journal for probably about 8 to 9 years now, I think. I can't remember exactly when I started it, but it's it's such a great habit to get into, because I do mine just before I go to sleep on a night, and it just reminds me how lucky I am and about all the good things that are going on. And I think especially at the minute, it's so easy to focus on the scary things and the negative things, isn't it? That just making ourselves look for the positive things in the day is so important.
Definitely. And it was something that Ollie and I used to do at night, and I want to get us both into the habit of it.
As an author, I'm guessing you've had quite a lot of experience of coming up with heroes, and I'm sure you've read about lots of heroes. I'm terrible. I'm useless at reading fiction. I read non-fiction because I'm like perpetual teacher, so I read basically textbooks. That's my fun. But I do love a good hero. And I was just wondering, as an author, what your idea of a hero is. What's a hero to you, Kim?
Ooh, that's a really good question, Kate. I suppose a hero should be somebody that doesn't rescue you, but lets you rescue yourself. So somebody who inspires you, motivates you, wants the best for you, and wants you to live your best life, and just encourages you all the way.
I love that. It's so true, isn't it? And I think so many people, like we were brought up, weren't we, most of us, with that kind of Disney princess. You need a prince to come along and save you. But I think we've evolved past that. And I love the fact that, you know, by the time my daughter was watching Disney films, we were starting to get more into the sort of, you know, the princess can rescue herself and she doesn't need a man approach. Because I think as the world changes, our ideas about what a hero changes.
Definitely, and it's something I write about a lot in my books. I think in my 3 books that I've written so far, and in the next one that I'm writing as well. I don't know if it's conscious or unconsciously, but have written about women who go on a journey and do rescue themselves. The third one that I wrote is about 4 women who go on holiday to Portugal. They're 50-year-olds. They're all at stages in their life where they're not happy and they just need to kind of do something different in their lives, and they all come together and help each other to, you know, think about different things that they can do in their life so that they can move forward. And I love that. I've got some amazing friends in my life, and my friends motivate and inspire me. So for me, you know, you are your own hero. Put your own cape on and, you know, be your own hero, because you don't need somebody else. Sometimes you need somebody else to help you, you know, to point things out to you that perhaps you can't see, and you know that you need pointing out to you. But I'm a big believer in the fact that you can rescue yourself dead easy.
I think what you're going to say to this next question.
I'm really scared of your questions because I have no idea what you're going to ask me.
I want to know, Kim, who your heroes are. They can be real life, they can be fictional, but I'm sure you've got some really great heroes.
Are you going to make me cry now? My hero is my mum.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Who's not with me anymore. But she was amazing. She was an amazing mum. She taught me to be a mum. So she is my biggest hero I can ever talk about. But my heroes are my friends. You know, I've got a friend at the moment who is, it's quite funny, at the beginning of lockdown, she said to me, if my husband and I survive this, it will be an absolute miracle. They didn't. And she spent 6 months trying to sort her life out, her kids out, her new house out for herself. And she's done all of that herself. And she's been an absolute trooper, and she's been amazing. And I can't tell you how much I've wanted to give her a big hug all the way through it, and obviously we can't do that at the moment. But people like that are my heroes, the people that can, you know, that can turn their lives around, and people that can be strong. You know, you can't be strong all the time, Kate, you know that, but, you know, they're people that, you know, you can have a pity party if you want to have a pity party, but you know what? The only person that gets down when you have any pity party is you, and sometimes you've got to give yourself a kick up the backside and get on with it and just do what you need to do. And I do think sometimes I am a bit harsh about things like that, but I know I have had things happen to me in my life, and you can either you know, you can either wallow and feel sorry for yourself, or you can pick yourself up and get on. And I'm a big believer in the fact that you can do that, and that will make you feel better.
It's so important to believe that you can get through things, isn't it? And I love the fact that you've said what you've said about real people getting through difficult times, because that's kind of the whole point of these interviews. The whole point of these interviews wasn't to find people that were in any way remarkable. And when I say, you know, I don't mean that you're not remarkable. You absolutely are. Every single person that I've interviewed has got an amazing story to tell. But the fact is, the majority of people that I've interviewed wouldn't be recognized on the street. You know, they wouldn't. And that, for me, is the whole point. The whole point of this series is to make people realize that we've all got that hero quality, and that sometimes we need to be in a difficult situation to find it. It sounds like your friend did, and I know, you know, you've been through things like I have that have made you really dig deep, and you'd got to make that choice between sink and swim. And, you know, especially if you've got children or you've got people that are relying on you, you've got no choice but to swim and to push through.
Definitely. And I don't think you know sometimes where that strength, that inner strength comes from, but it comes from somewhere. And whether that's, you know, there's a bit of me that thinks whether that's people up above helping you, guiding you along the way, or whether it does come from within you. You know, I think you probably know the answer to what I really think on that. But yeah, you just, you know, it does come. It comes when you need it.
You know, it was interesting what you were saying about your most recent book, about it being women in their 50s, because I think one of the things that I've really noticed is that as we get older, we get more confident in our abilities. We've lived through so much and we've survived so much a lot of the time, that it's not until we get into our 40s and 50s that we really start to find that inner power, and we start to really understand what is important. I think, you know, it's very easy for most people, you know, their teens and 20s are quite sort of superficial. You know, we're very much bothered about what the world thinks of us and whether everybody else thinks that we're doing a good job and we're coping and, you know, we're giving the right impression. And I think as you grow through your 30s and into your 40s and 50s, you get a lot more sort of self-confident and just more assured in who you are and what you want to be, and you care less and less the older you get, I think, about what other people think and whether they think that you've done something right and the way that it should have been done.
Yeah, and it's funny because you said at the beginning that I was an award-winning author, which is lovely. I was nominated recently for an award. It was the Kindle 2020 Storyteller Award, which is a big award in the book world. The prize was £20,000 plus marketing support from Amazon, and it was a massive prize. And I was the top. There were 5 authors chosen out of over 9,000, but I didn't win, and I saw that as failure. And people said to me, "You were nominated. You were one of the 5 authors." And I went, "But I didn't win." And people have kind of gone, "But look, Kim, you've had your books published. You know, your 3rd book, the first book you self-published yourself, has won this award, has won this sort of nomination, which is brilliant in itself." But I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. I think as women, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And there was a little bit of me there that I think perhaps went back to my childhood. And I wouldn't say I've always been confident, but I think there's always been something in me that's, I don't know, maybe a bit of the way that you brought up in that, you know, don't show off, you know, don't brag about things. So there was a little bit of me kind of going, well, actually, no, I'm not going to brag about this. But then I felt a bit stupid in front of people because I didn't win. And somebody said to me, "You're being absolutely ridiculous because you've done really well and you just need to reframe it."
It's an incredible thing to get to that point.
I do know that deep down, but I think there's just a little bit of me kind of saying, "Do you know what, I feel a bit stupid because I kind of thought I'd had a chance at this and I didn't win."
Can I put it into perspective for you? You know, you were saying how many books you've released and how recently you started releasing them. If I tell you that I started writing my book about 11 years ago and I've only done the first chapter and an outline of the rest of it, does that make
I'm going to challenge you then, Kate Beddow. But it's, and I know I am really lucky. And one of my authors at work, Angela Marston's her name is, she's our sort of biggest selling author over at Booker. And she went through 25 years of rejections. And after 25 years, we picked up on her. We published her first book, and it's gone on to sell over 1 million copies, which is absolutely huge. It's the first book in a crime thriller series, and the series itself, now she's brought out so many books. It only came out in 2015, and she's gone on to sell 4.3 million copies of the whole series. And people like her are my hero, because she's had, literally before we picked it up, they were selling jewellery to just pay their mortgage and borrowing money off family and friends. So hers is a proper rags to riches story, and nobody deserves success more than people like that. People that have, constantly been rejected and fight back every time. And on a Tuesday night, I do something called Book Chat with Kim over on my Facebook page, and I have a well-known women's fiction author come and talk to me. And it's amazing how many say, when I say to them, what advice would you give to a new author? And they'll say, tenacity, determination, never, ever give up. If it's what you really want to do, don't give up.
You hear about it so often though, don't you? As you were saying that, I was thinking about J.K. Rowling, who I know is quite controversial at the minute. But, she had rejection after rejection. She was practically homeless, wasn't she, at one point? I think, she was going and writing in a cafe because she couldn't afford to heat the flat that she was living in. She'd got a tiny baby, but she knew that she'd got a story that needed to be told. And I think, it's really easy, isn't it, to forget that the people that we know and the people that we hear about are the ones who do just keep pushing and don't give up. And most of them have had just as many rejections. The only difference is that they didn't stop trying.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is that, go back to that, have a pity party, but you know what, you've got a foot, kick yourself up the backside, get out there and try again. Try and try again. It's something we, that's kind of what we were brought up with, wasn't it? That try again. If you don't succeed,
it'll be interesting to see how much of that attitude passes down to the next generation, because I think there's quite a different attitude among younger people. I think because they've grown up more with the kind of Big Brother and all the reality TV stars and the YouTube stars and things, I think there's a real attitude among younger people that you just become famous, and it just happens. You just get 8 million YouTube subscribers, or you just get to be on that TV program. You just have to smile at the right person, and there you are. That's your life set. I'm sure Ollie's probably watched the same YouTube stars that my lad watches, of 8-year-old boys who get paid to open boxes of football boots, and just, they get sent like 3 or 4 pairs of boots a week and that sort of thing. And they've got, goodness knows how many subscribers, and, they sit in a bath of slime and open a pair of football boots, and everybody wants to throw money at them. But, that's the 1 or 2 that actually manage to get seen, isn't it? And there's probably millions of kids trying to do the same thing who just never get spotted.
But there's also probably millions of kids who say, I'd love to do that, but then don't actually do anything about it. I wanted to write a book for years and years, and it finally occurred to me, probably, 6-7 years ago, that the only way I was going to write a book is if I actually sat my backside on a chair, got my laptop out and started to write words, because I could sit there and say, I'd love to write a book. We can all sit and say that, can't we? But unless you physically get on with it and do it, it's not going to happen.
I actually booked myself onto a virtual book writing retreat in the summer.
Oh, did
That was when
you?
I did the first chapter. I've had it planned out and I've had like little bits written down for years and years. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to book myself onto this virtual retreat and it'll make myself do something. And that's when I did the first chapter. And every Friday since then, I've said, right, Fridays are going to be book writing days. And every single Friday, something else has come up that I needed to do. And I know that I just need to make myself do it.
Perhaps instead of it being every Friday, Kate, perhaps you need to do, every day between, I don't know, 6:30 and 7 o'clock in the morning. You just need to do a bit. Maybe Friday's not working for you because it's too big.
I knew I needed to talk to you. The thing is, I know that if I'd got a publisher sitting with a whip saying it needs to be done by this date, I know that I'd do it. But because I'm just trying to do it and then see if I'm happy enough to do something with it, it just kind of keeps getting kicked down the road.
But why not set yourself if you set yourself a goal of you want it published before, I don't know, even you want it written, not even published, but if you want it published by, I don't know, next summer, and just work backwards and kind of go, well, I need to do this many words each month, which means I need to do this many words each day. If you did 250 words a day, it would be better than what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. Thanks, miss.
I told you I was bossy.
That's what I like about you. So, Kim, we've talked about what you think a hero is, but what's your superpower?
Oh, God. Oh, my God, what a question.
This is always the one that gets everybody.
Oh, my God, Kate. I honestly do not know the answer to that. What is my superpower? Maybe that tenacity, the fact that I really want to do it, and that I won't give up until I do it.
It's certainly a big part of your personality.
I think I've always been one of those sort of people that kind of go, that door's locked, I haven't got a key. Right, how are we going to get through the door? I'm going to get that door open. I don't care how we're going to do it. I'll go round it, I'll go under it, I'll go above it. I'm going to get through that door. And I think perhaps it's that and looking at the different ways. Perhaps I'm just a stubborn cow, I'm trying to say. And that I won't let things beat me, maybe.
And is that something that you inherited, something that you learned? Is it something that you learned in a particular experience or from a particular person? Or do you think it's just something that's built in?
I think it's something that I probably learned from my mum. As I say, I talked earlier about mum, and she was incredible. She kind of, I sometimes sit there now and I just wish she was here. I could, for so many reasons, but one of the reasons why I wish I could say to her, like sometimes now I feel completely overwhelmed, certainly at the moment, with life. And I just want to say to her, how did you cope, Mum? You must have felt like this. And that was at a time when shops weren't open every weekend. And I wonder sometimes how my mum used to do her shopping. Because she had us as kids. You couldn't just, go and take off to the supermarket every weekend. So how did she used to do her shopping? You didn't do online shopping in those days. And I'd love to ask her things like that. So, I do think my dad, much as my dad, and God bless him because he's not here anymore either, my dad had a butcher's shop, but he wasn't a particularly hands-on dad, so he was always at work. And when he wasn't at work, he was at home sleeping because he was knackered from being at work all the time. So it was all down to Mum, and Mum did everything. So I think perhaps I get that spirit from her. But I also think it's people along the way that you meet. And I do think that in the last 10 years of my life, I've probably met the most incredible people that have ever been in my life. And I think perhaps, again, as you get older, you become more, I don't think it's the fact that you don't care what people think, but perhaps you become more, I think I've got to the stage where I think, do you know what, I'm 52 now, I've got my whole life ahead of me, and I can do so much, and I want to do so much. Years ago, a 52-year-old would be sitting doing their knitting, and they'd be classed as somebody that's probably quite old. And I don't feel old at all, and I still feel like I've got so much to give that's what kind of spirit, sort of fires me up as well and keeps me going.
It was really interesting what you said, because one of the things that I don't have a problem with so much as, but I've kind of noticed and always sort of take it into account when I'm talking about, you know, different women and life now. One of the things that I find really fascinating is that the sort of feminist movement has really pushed for women to have equal rights and equal abilities to make choices and do things. And I think, you know, we're really lucky. Our generation is so lucky because we've had that option to, you know, go out and get good jobs and, you know, still have a family and still have the home life, but to go after our careers as well, which, you know, maybe our mums were just starting to do, but certainly their mums didn't have the option to do. But I think the thing that, you know, you touched on there about, you know, when would your mum have done her shopping? You know, when we were kids, the shops weren't even open late at night, never mind 24 hours or weekends or, you know, so if you were working and you'd got children, when did you do the food shopping? And
I honestly don't know the answer to that. I don't know when my mum did her shopping.
No. And I think, you know, one of the things that has happened for some families, but certainly not all families, is that women have got these amazing jobs and they've got the family, and they're still somehow expected to find time to do the majority of the housework and, you know, the cooking and things. And I mean, I'm really lucky because we're both at home and Ian's much better at cooking than I am. So he does the majority of the cooking these days. He hasn't always, but, you know, the last sort of 12 months, he definitely has taken the lead on the cooking. And I do more of the cleaning and that sort of thing. But, you know, it's really interesting seeing how, yes, we've moved forward and we, you know, we've got this ability to have a career, but there hasn't been any shift towards the men taking on more of the women's roles. And obviously, I mean, I know, you know, you're by yourself with Ollie and, you know, so you've got all that to do anyway. You've got, you know, everything.
I did anyway.
Yes.
No offense to, you know, no offense to Oliver's father, but, you know, he was at work a lot, so I did a lot of that anyway. I've listened to on audio actually a book recently, and I don't know if you've managed to read it or listen to it. More Than a Woman by Caitlin Moran.
Oh, no, but I have heard about it.
Oh my God, Kate, everybody needs to read this book. And I think not only women need to read this book, but men need to read it too. There's a few things in the book that really stood out to me. And the one main thing is the fact that she talked about a family being a bit like, or some families being a little bit like, the mom is pulling her kids along on the sledge and the dad's helping her. And then the dad gets a bit tired, so he jumps on the sledge as well, and she pulls him as well. And then he gets off, and he pulls a bit more, and then he jumps back on again because he's knackered, and it's a shame for him because he's knackered. But mum just keeps on going, and she keeps on going, and she's pulling this sledge. And it just made me think, oh my God, that is so right. I know so many people in that sort of situation where they're just doing everything. And it's not fair. And she was saying, you know, it's not fair. Any man who's not putting 50% into their relationship, it's not fair. Why should they not be doing it? And I feel like since I've read that book, I've become more of a feminist than I've ever been before. And feminism isn't actually what I thought it was in the past. It's just all about equality. And I always thought it was something completely different in the past, to be honest.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Watching how the world's evolving. But at the same time, there's still so much catching up to do.
Definitely. And I was talking to my friend, we were walking the dogs this morning, and I was talking to my friend, and she was saying that last night they'd kind of cooked dinner, and then her two sons went off upstairs, and her partner kind of went, right, I'm going to go to bed now. And she's like, oh, hold on a minute. All of you, come back here. Hold on. What's wrong with this scene? And they were like, I don't know. And she went, I've just cooked. I've worked all day. I might have been at home, but I've worked all day. And then I've cooked tea. You've just ate tea. And then you just walked out and left everything. Why is it my job to do this? And she said that he turned around and said to her, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realise. If you'd have said, can I help? Then I would help you. And she said, but who has to tell me to do it? Who has to tell me to wash up because the wash up needs doing? Who has to tell me to put a laundry load on? And I don't know if it's just the difference between, you know, is it that whole men are from Mars and women are from Venus thing? Where, you know, we're just wired differently, so we don't that, you know, they don't think the same way as we do. But, you know, sometimes you do sit there and go, well, nobody tells me it's tea time and we need to do the tea. You just get up and do it.
You know, as much as we want equality, I think it's also important to accept the fact that we are fundamentally different as well.
Yeah.
You know, our brains don't work the same way and we don't have the same impulses and the same ideas about things. But it's learning to work together. And, you know, if we can learn to, you know, do the decorating and, you know, change the oil in the car, then men can learn that they need to notice when it needs, you know, vacuuming round or the washing up needs doing, can't they?
But we should only do things when it suits us, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, do we really want to we'll learn how to change the oil on the car?
See, we have a very strange arrangement in our house because I tend to do the jobs that are traditionally male. So if the hedge needs cutting or, you know, a room needs decorating, I do that. And Ian brings me drinks and makes the tea and keeps the house tidy and looks after the kids.
Love it.
So we get
I think what's important, though, is that we bring our children up to do that whole, you know, to be equal, because it's not fair on one person to do that. And that's one thing that I really want to try and do. And I'm very guilty of being a helicopter mum, where I've just done everything for Ollie. And it's really interesting that I've done an interview with a lady called Joanna Fortune, who is a parenting expert in psychotherapy. And she's been amazing. And it's kind of talking to her that she's kind of persuaded me to let go a little bit, make him a bit more independent and try and teach him now the things that he needs to go off into the world and that he's going to need to do at some point, rather than trying to do it all for him. Because I have been very guilty of kind of thinking, well, I know if he makes himself a sandwich, he's going to make a mess. So I may as well do it myself, because then I can do it and not make a mess. And it's, you know, there is a little bit of that involved as well.
I think a lot of parents are the same. I think, you know, particularly because I had a girl and then a boy, I was determined, like fiercely determined, to make Laura as independent as I could. And she was going to be able to do everything that a boy could do. And, you know, if she wanted to play with certain toys, she could. And when Dan came along, I was really conscious that it might be, you know, accepted, particularly with older generations, for Laura to have that independence, but it would be more frowned upon when I got him to do his own washing, or, you know, to learn how to bake or whatever it was. But I'm terrible. I'm the opposite of you. If anything, I sit about thinking, am I not doing enough for them? Should I maybe just mollycoddle them a little bit more? Because my two, I think they started doing their own washing when they were about 6 or 7.
I don't think Ollie even knows where our washing machine is.
But it's good for them. And my logic is, if they can use a phone, if they can use a computer, if they can use a games console, then they can use a washing machine.
No, I totally agree. And that's why I have been, probably for the past year, changing the way that I am about things like that, definitely.
You got to do it slowly, though, otherwise you scare them.
Yeah. And I think for me as well, he's the only person that needs me in my life. So I suppose there's a little bit of me that kind of goes, you know what, I like being needed.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's probably my own insecurities that likes the fact that he needs me to do stuff for him.
It's been so interesting talking to you. And I love talking to authors because they always have such an interesting perspective on everything. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, Kate. I've loved talking to you. And we should have done this ages ago anyway, really.
We should.
Just for a nap.
Would you like to just let everybody know where they can find you on social media and online, in case anybody wants to find out more?
Definitely, thank you. I am known everywhere as Kim the Bookworm. I sometimes think that the Bookworm is my surname rather than Nash. So yeah, I'm on Twitter as @Kim the Bookworm. I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook page which is called Kim the Bookworm. My website is kimthebookworm.co.uk. I'm on Instagram as Kim_the_bookworm. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. But if people do like to listen to authors, I do a Tuesday night chat 8 till 9 on my Facebook page, where we do a Facebook Live. And I've had some incredible authors on there, which have been amazing to me because they're people I've been reading for years and years and years. So people like Jill Mansell, who I've been reading since I could, sort of read, she's been on and chatted to me. And that's what's been so lovely along my journey, is getting to know people like that and being, sort of honoured enough to call those people my friends as well, which is quite amazing.
You've been on such a journey.
It has been quite a journey, yes. And my books are on Amazon, so if you just type in Kim Nash into Amazon as well, you'll find my 3 books on there as well.
Brilliant. I'm sure everybody will be going and finding you now. I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to read your books now after listening to you talk.
Well, my first book, can I just say, Kate, we talked about spirituality and stuff like that. My first book I wrote after my mum had died. I started to write it, and it was kind of about my relationship with her. So there is quite a lot in there about spirituality as well, and about, maybe what people can expect when people have passed on, and how you cope with grief and stuff like that. So that book in particular, that's called Amazing Grace, and that was a really important book to me. And probably out of the 3, they're 3 similar books because they're all sort of romantic comedies, but I think that one is the one that's based on me the most, and the one that's the closest to my heart as well.
And you are amazing. So it must be about you.
We should have called it Amazing Things. It's funny because I just don't see myself as that at all.
We never do. We never do. Thank you so much, Kim. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you for having me.